have left fathers have left home in order for their children to get meat and bread. There are so many dehumanizing elements in the welfare system that we are concerned about removing. Ultimately, we are concerned about a guaranteed annual income. And the other thing I think it is very necessary to say is that everybody's on welfare in this country. And when it comes to black people and poor people, we just call it something else. And for white people and rich, we call it subsidies.
It's no secret, fatherless households are more common in the black community. A survey from the American Consensus Institution revealed that 67% of black children under 18 in the U.S. live in homes without fathers. This is a stark contrast to white children, as only 24% of them live in fatherless homes. But it wasn't always like that. The black families survived generations of open racism, widespread poverty, and slavery. They lived through segregation and violence, and strong family bonds used to be the norm.
As of 1960, 2/3 of all black American children were living with both parents. That declined over the years until only 1/3 were living with both parents in 1995. So it's not the legacy of slavery that destroys the African American family.
It's the legacy of the welfare state.
Between 1890 and 1950, the marriage rate was much higher among black women than white women. A fraction of black children lived in homes without their fathers. But everything changed with the expansion of the welfare state. It divided the household and created a dependency on welfare. This kind of reminds me of what President Reagan said.
I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
So, what happened? What's the mechanism? Here is a detailed look at how the welfare state played a role in the dissolving of the family structure over the years. People say that the breakdown of traditional family units, family structures, is a byproduct of black poverty, not just because there is no man to support the family financially, but also because women tend to earn less than men on average. Of course, the connection between the two is there, but it goes deeper than that. Welfare was a mean little business. It was designed to get people by in a pinch. Public assistance programs, like welfare entitlements, have been a part of American culture since the 1940s. Unfortunately, like in many other aspects of government institutions, black Americans were left out. In time, black people could also get financial support, but it wasn't easy. Mothers who applied for checks had to let social workers inspect their homes to see if their conditions were suitable for welfare. These workers also had to make sure no man was living in the house. But even if they qualified for support, the amount they received was meager and not enough to build a stable life. In the early 1960s, welfare was not yet common, even in the most impoverished black communities. In the decade that followed, the number of black people on welfare went up by 169%. They further increased by 30% from 1970 to 1975. In 1972, New York City, almost 1 out of every 6 residents was on welfare. A major portion of these households were black. Although black people were only around 1/10 of all Americans, they made up almost 50% of all welfare recipients by the late 70s. A recent UNICEF report showed that many children under 18 in America struggle financially, and African American children are nearly 4 times more likely to be in poverty than white children. Though the number of families receiving cash assistance has decreased since 1996, child poverty rates for black children in the U.S. remain high. This outcome is not by accident. I studied the evolution of social welfare policies in the U.S. from the New Deal to the 1996 reforms, and found that these policies have been discriminatory from the start, and a lot of people can confess to that. This led many black families to fall into cultural and economic ruin. In a short period, healthy black people started relying on government assistance to achieve some level of normalcy. But within the city slums, that normalcy was impossible to get. Black children barely knew their fathers, and most were raised by unemployed and unmarried mothers stuck in a cycle of poverty and modest paychecks. This marked a significant shift in black American history. The consequences were severe for the next generation. Let's start with the Social Security Act of 1935. It was introduced during Franklin Roosevelt's administration. It was designed to create the safety net in the country, safeguarding families from losing their income. It was viewed as a significant part of New Deal reform and paved the way for federal protections in the future, such as the Affordable Care Act and Medicare. This policy had 2 main parts. The first part had social insurance programs that provided financial support to dependents of deceased or incapacitated workers, and Social Security for retired older Americans. The second part comprised means-tested public assistance programs, initially known as Aid to Dependent Children, and later renamed Aid to Families with Dependent Children. In 1962, under the Kennedy administration, ideally, it was believed that as the overall quality of life in the country improved, more families could support themselves without needing financial assistance from the ADC program. Eventually, the ADC program would become unnecessary and gradually phase out on its own. But this posed a major problem for Black Americans. Like any other component of the New Deal, the origins of the Social Security Act were deeply rooted in racism. During the 1930s and 1940s, Black people had to deal with widespread racial discrimination in the workplace. They held low-paying jobs, often paid in cash and off the books. This made them ineligible for social insurance programs. The program was an extension of state-run programs that supported widowed mothers, but mostly benefited white widows. The states decided eligibility and need, and since the separate but equal doctrine was in place, Blacks were still excluded from fully participating. Jim Crow laws and the separate but equal doctrine led to a system with different services for whites and Blacks. But, as we all know by now, they were far from equal.
Whether or not matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents, it doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized.
Jim Crow Joe.
Socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience.
Game live and direct in 93. You stupid niggas still went out there and voted for this motherfucking devil. I'm telling y'all he ain't give a damn about y'all.
They literally have not had an opportunity.
Literally, he told y'all.
We should focus on
literally, he told you I don't give a damn about y'all.
They will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets.
Wow.
That society has, in fact,
wow.
in part because of its neglect.
Y'all created it, though.
Created.
Exactly.
Again,
keyword,
it does not
created.
mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or
Created
do not take
this
them
shit.
out of
I
society.
told y'all they love
To protect my
creating
family
and
and yours
experimenting
from
on
them.
motherfuckers, y'all.
They are
Keywords.
beyond the pale, many of those
Create
people.
and experiment.
Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society.
Wow.
But to take them out of society.
Wow.
And the truth is, we don't very well know how to
Jim Crow
rehabilitate
Joe
them at that point.
telling y'all
That's
in
the sad
93 he
truth.
ain't give a damn
I'm the
about
guy
y'all.
that said,
But them house
when
niggas
it
was
occurs,
selling
we
niggas
don't
out to
understand
vote
it,
for this
notice it,
goddamn devil.
And even when we notice
This
and we know it
beast.
occurs, we don't know why.
And
So
not
you
only
cannot
that,
make rehabilitation
listening to
conditions
his
for release.
advice to
That's
taking
why
another
our system is-
experiment.
The federal system, you serve 85%
God
of
damn
your
it.
time. It's a shame.
Where you at, Aloud?
But there is a consensus, and I will cease. A, we must make the streets safer. I don't care why
Wow.
someone is a malfactor in society. I don't care why someone is antisocial. I don't care why they become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society, try to help them, try to change their
Wow.
behavior. That's why we do in this bill. We have drug treatment and we have other treatments to try to deal with it. But they are in jail,
Wow.
away from my mother, your husband, our families.
Wow.
But we would be absolutely stupid as a society if we didn't recognize the condition that nurtured those folks still exist. And we must deal with that.
That shit, y'all. Listen to this crap.
We already have a nigger mayor. We don't need any more nigger big shots.
Yeah.
He's a low-down racist. They're gonna put you all back in chains.
Wow.
I had spent years writing what became known as the Biden crime bill.
Democrats right now, especially African Americans, have really looked back on the 1994 crime bill not very fondly.
And everybody talks about 94, the crime bill.
The Biden crime bill.
But you need to talk about 7980 when he pushed a Reform Act through on federal sentencing. So 10 Rocks got sentenced as a kilo of pure cocaine. So they abolished federal probation and parole, and you get sentenced in on a federal case, you serve damn near all of it. You don't get out early. So, yeah, that.
I like the idea they keep in jail longer. I'm the guy that wrote the bill requiring federal judges to keep people in jail 100% of the time for which they're sentenced, and the notable exceptions only 85%. So I'm all for tougher enforcement.
And also all of that crap about trying to reimpose segregation. I know we have some idiots talking about, brother, if desegregation was the worst thing for us. Oh, hell no. I had to go through it. Nigga, you better not take your black ass or your yellow ass over there by that water fountain. Nigga, where you going? You better not even think about going in that bathroom. What you doing out here, boy? It's almost, it's 5:10, 5:30, gonna be dark. You better not have your ass out here then. See? That's segregation.
30 seconds or less. What kind of a chance would a northeastern liberal like Joe Biden stand in the South if you were running in Democratic primaries against Southerners like Mark Warner and John Edwards?
Better than anybody else. Now, you don't know my state. My state was a slave state.
My day, I could vote.
Delaware was a slave state. We know that.
And he was known as the last and youngest Dixiecrat to be in the Democratic Party. He was talking about he understood the Negro. He said the Negroes are animals, where they are zoos and jungles, over and over. He was the last and youngest Dixiecrat to be in the Democratic Party. He was talking about he understood the Negro. He said the Negroes are animals, where they are zoos and jungles, over and over. He said, I'm not letting my children go to a zoo where there are Negro animals in there.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Just go, oh, everything's all right, Judge. Why are you all upset about racism and stuff? It doesn't exist. Yes, it does. And then see, Mr. Trump got in, and in the 60s, what we used to say is, don't vote for the lesser of two evils. Vote for that which heightens the contradiction so you can see what the hell you're really dealing with. Now, interestingly, in this one, Trump is two things. He's the lesser of two evils, and he also heightens the contradiction. All those slave-ass niggas want to get back on a damn plantation. It says demogatic plantation. See, back in the 60s, the Dixiecrats were deep off into the Democratic Party. They left in 68. And that was because black folk had become too well insinuated in the Democratic Party. Now the gays have gotten too well insinuated into the Democratic Party, and instead of Dixiecrats, it's demogatics. So they've taken that over.
You got instead of the Dixiecrats, you got the Dix-in-cracks, and that's what's going on right now.
It too.
The Dix-in-cracks.
Demogatics. Now, they've got this. They haven't come up.
Instead of the Dixiecrats, you got the Dix-in-cracks, and that's what's going on right now.
It too.
Facts.
Demogatics. Now they've got this COVID-19 stimulus bill held up by Pelosi because she wants to put all these LGBTQ riders on top of it. And the Trump administration isn't buying it because basically it's just contributed to the degrading of the family, the emasculation of the country, and putting children up as sexual objects for
Frances Quest Welsing said it better.
She just came out with something today saying she's giving them till Tuesday. Otherwise, nothing will happen until after the election. So she's trying to hold the American people in a hostage status to give the LGBTQ folk more. Now, it looks just like Nazism. See, Nazi stands for...
We incarcerate large numbers of black men. We are controlling the size of the black population.
Jim Crow Joe.
If we incarcerate large numbers of black men,
What was Joe
we
just
can
talking about,
control
y'all?
the sexuality
Lock 'em up,
of black women.
Who did Joe have on all his goddamn administration?
If we
All black women, right?
incarcerate large numbers of black men,
Incarcerate the black
we
man.
can control the sexuality of black women.
Facts.
You see, and all we need to do is put on the TV that lesbianism is okay. Now, don't misunderstand me. An epidemic in homosexuality. Now, the CIA and the military, it came out in the newspaper that they were designing chemical weapons where they could spray it on the enemy forces, and the enemy soldiers would begin to want to have sex with each other, and then they would be defeated. Now, if somebody is thinking to create such a chemical,
Key word, create, y'all.
or chemicals,
Create
I
and
say
experiment.
perhaps they have already deployed it.
Facts. They already deployed that shit.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Facts.
If they have chemicals and plastics that they understand are already affecting the sexuality of fish and frogs and causing fish and frogs to become castrated and the males to become effeminized, why wouldn't they deploy it?
Facts.
It's just like I'm saying, anybody who thinks HIV/AIDS is some accident that fell out of the sky, I say, wake up. See, wake up. My position is that it's biological warfare until proven otherwise. Until proven otherwise.
We already have a nigger mayor. We already have a nigger mayor. We don't need any more nigger big shots. We already have a nigger mayor. We don't need any more nigger big shots.
Is that love for you or hate?
All right, you.
Yes, sir, boss.
Jim Crow laws and the separate but
Jim
equal
Crow
doctrine
Joe.
led to a system with different services for whites and blacks. But as we all
You
know,
just heard from Jim Crow Joe, right, y'all?
States made efforts to
What do you
cut
say?
down
We don't
ABC
want another
enrollment
nigger
and
mayor,
costs.
right?
They proposed residency
What do you
requirements
call y'all?
to prevent
Predators and all
blacks from the
types of
South
shit,
from
man.
qualifying for the program.
Y'all
In
elected that
1935,
dude.
there was a hearing on the
But y'all
bill.
was
and the
sold out by your own
NAACP,
people
an
and shit.
organization that fights for civil rights, expressed their concerns.
NAACP, all these house
wanted to
niggas and
exclude
stuff.
agricultural
You see,
and
the
domestic workers from the
NAACP
bill.
was
This
created
meant
by
that many
white
black
men.
workers
Y'all saying
couldn't
that,
get the
right?
support
Let's
they
get
needed.
to the facts
This
of that.
exclusion slashed tenants who were already struggling to make ends meet. Even though the NAACP was highly against it, the Social Security Act was approved. That's why 65% of African Americans nationwide were not eligible for benefits, and an even larger percentage of these black families in the South were excluded from the program. In the 1950s and 60s, things got even worse for black families. Welfare checks incentivized single-mother households, and there was one rule that ruined it all: the man-in-the-house rule. Black families have long been the victims of income inequality and bad government policies.
The man in the
irony,
house
of
rule.
course, is that conservatives pushed black mothers to break their families to get welfare. Before 1968, many states and administrative agencies created and enforced the man-in-the-house rule. This rule basically meant that if there is a working or healthy man in the house, the government can't help you. And they would go as far as to send welfare workers to visit the homes without warning, to check if a man was present. If they found any evidence whatsoever, families lost their welfare benefits. Over the years, the welfare state started dissolving the family structure, slowly but surely. A man who can't get a decent job and provide a substantial income suddenly believes that his family's better off without him. So, if a man were to lose his job, he literally had to leave the house so his children could get government surplus peanut butter, beans, and cheese. On the other hand, if either the woman or the man, or both, were irresponsible, they faced no consequences for their actions. And it was the taxpayers who ended up paying for it. These things aren't exactly designed to keep the marriage intact. They are meant to divide people. The harm done to the children was massive. Many children experienced the hurt from broken families at such a young age. In 1960, just 33% of black American children didn't live with two parents. But by 1988, that rate went up to 61%.
They created this
In
problem,
that time,
ladies and gentlemen.
the
What
portion
did
of
Joe
black
say?
children born to single mothers
And what
rose
did I
from
tell y'all the
23%
two key
to
words?
more than 60%. This is
Create
exactly
and
why we can't judge
experiment.
government policies based on their ideals, but based on their results. And these results, well, left a ton of households fatherless. I mean, think about it. What would the result have
They
been
known
if
to
this welfare
create this
policy
shit.
had
Joe
required
said
the
it.
opposite of that? That both
They
parents live in the
created
same
that
home
problem.
and care for their children to receive government assistance.
And then blame who?
Powerball and Mega Millions will try to put me.
The welfare state did what slavery couldn't do. It broke families apart. And broken families fuel poverty.
You hear that?
The structure of the family can influence the choices children make. For example, boys raised without their fathers are more likely to drop out of school, get violence, use drugs, or go to jail. Girls are more likely to have a child out of wedlock or engage in sexual activities at a very early age. These children are also more prone to mental health problems, which can affect them as adults. A psychology test detailed in Roy Baumeister and John Tierney's book, Willpower, showed that children from fatherless households were more likely to settle for a small prize straight away. In contrast, children with fathers present were more willing to wait for a bigger prize. Experts from the Northwestern Institute for Policy Research challenge that these effects are primarily due to dangerous neighborhoods or poor schools. They found that the direct effect of family structure itself played a more significant role. As marriage rates declined among the poor and working class in the U.S., the institution of marriage has remained strong among the wealthier population, with similar rates to those from 50 years ago. At the same time, the decrease in marriage among the working class has led to a significant rise in out-of-wedlock births, often to couples who are living together without being married. This happens because people view marriage as an ideal situation, but feel it is unachievable, yet they still want to have children. In the mid-1980s, the rates of fatherless households dramatically increased. Today, just 44% of black children live with their fathers. Also, a lot more black children are born outside of marriage. The rates of such cases went up from 24.5% in 1964 to 70.7% by 1994, which remains at a similar level today. Many people blame the expansion of welfare programs for the breakdown
you
of
blame
black
Joe.
families.
Joe said
Since
that shit.
1935, people have had
They
access to
created
cash
it,
welfare,
didn't you,
but
Joe?
this
Who
welfare
created this,
was
Joe?
quite modest and not enough to cover any of
Did
the
y'all
living
get the
expenses.
graph?
With
Did you
Johnson's
grab
Great
that lesson
Society,
from me?
which began in 1964,
Hold
welfare
on.
benefits became
Tens of thousands of them born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President,
Y'all
we
created
have
the
predators
dojo.
on our streets that society has, in fact,
Created.
in part because of its neglect, created.
Facts.
Again, we
Y'all
have
hear that?
predators on our streets
That they created.
that
Y'all listen.
society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created.
You hear that?
Again, it does not mean because we created them.
See that?
we
They
somehow
created them. Y'all
forgive
see
them
that? Y'all hear that?
predators on our streets. That society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created.
Created.
Again, it does not mean because we created
See?
them that
We
somehow
created.
forgive them or do not take them out.